Days of soaring tensions and a massive US military buildup kept the Middle East on edge, with Washington rattling sabers and Tehran standing its ground. But after Iran's firm pushback and calibrated diplomacy, the tone is finally shifting. An Arab source tells US outlet Axios that the Trump administration has now agreed to Iran's request of changing the venue for talks, a nod that may avoid another round of confrontation in the region. The US and Iran are now meeting in Oman and not Turkey. The Arab source says talks are still being held on whether any Arab or Muslim countries will also take part in the negotiations in Oman, as Tehran is opposed to presence of mediators and observers. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi are expected to meet to discuss a possible nuclear deal. This is Trump's third attempt to strike a nuclear deal with Iran since returning to office. This would be the first meeting between US and Iranian officials since the collapse of the negotiations and the 12-day war last June. The last round of talks that was held in Oman collapsed after Israel attacked Iran in June in 2025, with the US too striking 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Iran's move to change the venue and agenda for the talks, scheduled for Friday in Istanbul, comes amid heightened tensions as the US builds up forces in the Middle East. Regional players have pushed for a resolution of a standoff that has led to mutual threats of airstrikes and stirred fears of escalation into a wider war. The regional diplomat with knowledge of Iran's demands said Tehran sought to change the format, they want to change the scope. Donald Trump had said the only way to avoid military conflict is a swift deal. On Monday, Trump warned that bad things would probably happen if a deal could not be reached with Iran. On Tuesday, Trump told reporters at the Oval Office, "We are negotiating with them right now."
Thank you. On Iran, are the negotiations still happening this week?
Yeah.
Where will they be? And what do you need to hear from Iran?
The rollover, but they are negotiating. They'd like to do something, and we'll see if something is going to be done. They had a chance to do something a while ago, and it didn't work out, and we did Midnight Hammer. I don't think they want that happening again, but they would like to negotiate. We are negotiating with them right now, yes.
Mr. President.
Where will the meeting be? It seems like
I
it's
can't tell
changing.
you that.
Mr. President, what
There's more than one meeting. Yeah, please.
Iranian sources told Reuters last week that Trump came up with 3 conditions for the resumption of talks. Number 1 is zero enrichment of uranium in Iran. Number 2 is limits to Tehran's ballistic missile program. And number 3 is ending its support for regional proxies. However, Iran has long said all 3 demands are unacceptable infringements of its sovereignty. But 2 Iranian officials told Reuters that its clerical rulers saw the ballistic missile program rather than uranium enrichment as the bigger obstacle. One Iranian official said there should be no preconditions and Tehran is ready to show flexibility on uranium enrichment, including handing over 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, accepting zero enrichment. All this comes as the US has moved an armada into the Gulf, but is it to strike Iran or just to build leverage ahead of talks?
A U.S. armada is moving into the Gulf, but the White House is sending mixed signals. President Trump is talking warships, leverage, and pressure, while quietly signaling he doesn't actually want a war with Iran. Behind the scenes, allies are pushing, enemies are watching, and talks are about to begin. This is gunboat diplomacy, with the guns loaded, but the trigger still untouched. President Trump is sending a message to Tehran, but it's a deliberately confusing one. U.S. warships, aircraft, and military assets are flooding into the Gulf, creating what officials call a credible threat. At the same time, Trump says he's open to talks and may not want war at all. According to a report by Axios, a senior U.S. official says the president does not currently believe Iran's nuclear activity poses an imminent threat. That's a sharp shift from earlier moments in his presidency, when similar standoffs ended in direct military strikes. This is Trump's third attempt to strike a nuclear deal with Iran since returning to office. Officials insist the effort is real, but history looms large. The last round of talks collapsed into war after Trump quietly approved Israeli strikes and then ordered U.S. attacks on Iranian nuclear sites. Now, Trump heads into new talks with significant leverage. A massive U.S. military buildup is already in place. Iran's leadership is weakened by internal unrest and growing isolation. But American officials privately doubt Iran's supreme leader is willing to meet Trump's demands. Behind the scenes, skepticism runs deep inside the West Wing. Some advisors question whether U.S. bombs could actually bring political change, while others warn Iran's retaliation could ignite the entire region. At the same time, the report said Israel is pushing hard. Israeli military leaders and intelligence officials have been shuttling to Washington, laying out offensive and defensive plans for a possible war. U.S. officials say the pressure for strikes is coming far more from Israel than from Trump himself. Diplomats from Turkey, Qatar, Egypt, and others have stepped in, racing to defuse the crisis.
Iran has flatly rejected Donald Trump's claim that the United States issued a deadline for nuclear negotiations. Speaking in Tehran, Iran's foreign ministry said no ultimatum was received and none would be accepted. The language was measured, but the message was unmistakable. Iran will not negotiate under threat. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai said Iran engages diplomatically with honesty and seriousness, but never under coercion. He added that such statements from Washington cannot be confirmed. In diplomatic language, that is a direct rejection. At the same time, Tehran escalated on another front. Iranian authorities summoned all European Union ambassadors to protest the bloc's move to label the Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organization.
We are currently in the decision-making phase, and we sincerely hope that none of the media speculation circulating can be confirmed. As to where, in what specific form, or with the involvement of which parties, because at this very stage we are still in the process of making decisions. Iran. Pause. While I was just explaining in the context of what I mentioned earlier in diplomatic processes require integrity and seriousness, never accepting anything less. Or perhaps there was no specific deadline ever established. Therefore, such a claim cannot possibly be confirmed.
No changes to the planned military exercises.
No incident has occurred involving the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval exercise of the Army of the Islamic Republic of Iran with China and Russia is an annual exercise which I believe has been held 6 or 7 times so far in the northern Indian Ocean, and it will be conducted as scheduled. Throughout yesterday and today, all European countries, specifically the member states of the European Union that maintain their embassies in Tehran, have been summoned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The strong protest of the Islamic Republic of Iran has been formally conveyed in writing to their representatives. But as I mentioned, this is merely a minimal measure.
Trump, however, tells a different story. The U.S. president says he warned Iran to come to the table or face military consequences. He has not detailed the deadline nor explained how it was delivered. Tehran says no letter, no call, no formal message ever arrived. The United States has moved the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group into the Middle East, along with several guided missile destroyers. These are not symbolic deployments. They are forward-positioned assets designed for rapid action. Still, the White House has stopped short of confirming whether force will be used. Officials say all options remain on the table. Regional powers, meanwhile, are scrambling diplomatically, trying to prevent a confrontation that could engulf the wider Middle East.